Hey guys, Suzanne here, and I am in my studio with Paris, and I'm just wanting to answer a few questions that have come in on my Facebook page mainly about mat work, so some upper body work with wrists and arms. Charlotte wrote in this week, and I'm just gonna briefly read some of her question. I have problems doing planks, side planks, and really anything on the mat where I am leaning on my hands and arms. Is it best to do a few to get the form right, or to do more of the modified version until I am better and then work up to the hardest position? I just seem to find it so hard to hold on to my weight hold my weight on my wrists and hands and find myself sliding around or just fatiguing within seconds. Okay, so I'll answer that one first. Charlotte, yes, you want to modify. You want to get strong where you are. You don't want to move into something that's difficult to maintain. Now, you want to challenge yourself, of course, but you don't want to be sacrificing your form. And that's what happens when you move too far. You'll either slide or slip or feel like you can't hold it. But the danger for doing that, moving beyond your level, is that you really can put stress, especially when you're doing planks, on your shoulders or your lower back. So let me just show you. Can you get up, please? I love her. And it's raining here, and so none of my kids and my dog are inside today. So thank you. So here's the plank. Now, if you're in the modified version, you can hold it well, you can feel strong. You may not feel like you're getting that challenge. Maybe you're here. What if you slid your shins down on the floor and really activated your abs? But if you take your legs and tuck your toes and tuck them under, and then you lift your legs up and you start to feel like you're shifting and sliding, the sliding part may have to do with the mat that you're using. Maybe you're not using a sticky mat and you need to invest in something, or you need to put like a really hard scratchy towel down, just a very kind of a cheap terry cloth towel where you can make sure that your hands aren't sweating and slipping. But if it's just that you're not being able to maintain your plank and you're feeling a lot of pressure in your wrist or your neck or your shoulders or your back, that's not good form. You want to be here. So if you're not strong enough there, you need to modify, and then maybe for 5 seconds you can tuck your toes and hold that and then bend your knees down. So always modify your positions so that you can perform and move well, but also be challenged. So you want to feel that challenge. So never sacrifice your form to go deeper. When you when you drop down, you let your head fall, you're really putting stress on the shoulders. It's really tentative joint anyway. It's really not intended to be like this. We shouldn't be like that. I feel my shoulders. You want to be strong in your form, and you want to modify here. You see that when I take my toes and tuck them under, nothing is changing. And here I'm able to maintain that, and here I'm able to maintain that. So redundant, maintain your form. So great question. Always stay where you can perform it well, but be challenged. Second question I got this week was from Coleen, and let me pull that up. She says, I am loving your streaming videos, but I'm finding that my wrists hurt in some of the arm exercises and planks. I am working at my level, but I'm wondering if you have any suggestions. Is this something that will subside over time? I love the exercise. Coleen. Yes and no. So it depends on your form. So I'm assuming that when you're talking about you're feeling your wrists, you're not feeling your wrists when you're doing forearm planks because they're not bending. You're feeling your wrists when you're doing full long arm planks and when you're doing T-stands or push-ups, probably more of the planks and push-ups. So what I want to show you is when you are in plank, make sure you're not too far forward, okay? So you want to be back so that you have that 90-degree angle and no more. You don't want less of an angle. You want either 90-degree or more of an angle there. So if you feel that it's too much, so you want to make sure you're here. So if you feel like it's too much on your wrist, you do have permission to slide back just a little bit. Do you see what I just did? I just slid back, and you want to really connect the index fingers knuckle down to the mat, so you're really pressing weight into the whole hand. And what you don't want to do is be in too far with your arms or be forward of your wrists, and that feels terrible to my wrists. If I'm on a hard floor, if I'm doing a lot of yoga, if I take a yoga class, there's one club that I would attend, and they had a concrete floor with this thin layer of carpet above it. And I didn't take my own mat. I don't really take my mats anywhere. I just take whatever. I just use whatever. I'm not kind of phobic of that, but I used this really thin mat and my wrists hurt so badly. And it was just because the floor was hard. So just check that your floor, your mat is good. But here's the thing, you don't want too thick of a mat, because if you have too thick of a mat, your wrist could go even further down. So if you could imagine if I had this really thick, like inch width mat, and I pushed my weight down, my wrist might even go deeper down into that mat, and that would even put more pressure. So you want a nice, thick but thin mat. Do you understand what I'm saying? You want a nice dense mat that's not going to be too thick, but you don't want something too thin that you're actually feeling that hard floor. When you do your T-stands, you want to make sure that you're in that alignment where you're dropping, and it's not like you're right above it. You have that little bit of just a slight diagonal line, and you can always bring your knee down, and that'll take some of the weight out of the wrist. Your wrists are not intended, you shouldn't be on your wrists like for hours and hours and hours anyway. I mean, this is a lot. Even the 90 degree at the right angle is a lot for some people. They make gloves called Get Wags, and I've used them before. I like them. I like them a lot. I used them in that yoga class that was on the hardwood floor, or the concrete floor. Some of my clients who had arthritis in their wrists, they would use those, and they're really good. They are expensive, and you have to fit them to your hand. You have to make sure you get the right size. You could also possibly roll up a hand towel, or one of those cheap towels I was talking to Charlotte about. Roll one of those up and elevate your wrist a little bit so that it's not so square right on the floor. You could elevate it a little bit, but when you elevate it and you roll up something like that, you are causing instability. So you have to be aware that when you roll up something and elevate your wrists some, while that might feel better for you, you are creating, you're not connecting with your mat the same. So remember, make sure that you're not behind your shoulder, you're right underneath it, or maybe a little bit ahead, not too far ahead, because we don't want to put pressure on the shoulder joint, but you do have permission to go a little bit ahead, so maybe that'll take some. Push that knuckle, this knuckle right here, press that down and connect your hand in. And just make sure your hands are under the shoulders and not inside the shoulders. And make sure that also when you're doing your reverse push-ups that your alignment is right. You're under the shoulders and a little bit outside, but not too far. You're not directly underneath and you're not behind the shoulders. You want to make sure that might be one of the other exercises that you're feeling. That's a lot of weight on the wrist as well. And you also want to get your stretches in. Get your stretches right. Get your chest stretched out. Get your shoulders stretched out. Do the stretching segments. Really stretch out your chest. Get some mobility in the joint, in the shoulder joint. I'm working on that myself. So hopefully those tips have helped you. Let me know if you have any more questions. If I answer them, if I confused you, just let me know. I will see you soon. Thank you so much for working out with me. Bye.